Hello, everybody, and welcome to our latest installment of Claudette and Cassidy Champions.
Champions.
And as you know, we are here to talk about trending topics in trending topics. Oh, I got to turn myself off. I was hearing myself a feedback because I can actually hear myself on Facebook. So it's really weird. So I got to turn that off. Okay, that was weird. So, it's all about the trending topics in healthcare. And, that's big. Everybody knows they need healthcare, and we're going into that season. Also, in terms of finance, listen, if COVID hasn't taught anybody anything, is that you have to have some type of plan in place or some type of strategic idea of what it is you want. Because something like this will happen again, and you don't want to face it the way you did this time, with basically no plan. And also, you talk about trending topics in entrepreneurship. We're in the great resignation right now. And what does that mean? Because it doesn't mean the same thing for everybody. So today, our guest is Adam Chuckrow. Hi, Adam.
Hello, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And Adam is with Prime America. Prime America is a company that's been around for the past, if I'm not mistaken, 40 years.
44 years, actually.
44, thank
Yeah.
you. 44 years. And they have, like many, like more all financial planners, financial advisors, financial professionals, our goal is to help people be in a better position than where they are.
Mhm.
But just like if you go into Foot Locker and say to the guy, I want a pair of sneakers, there's a wall with hundreds of pairs of sneakers. It's the expertise of that person and your goals, which will get you the best result. So today, let's talk with Adam. So Adam, can you briefly, introduce yourselves to our audience?
Shout out, he lives in Vegas.
Yeah, I
Woo!
got the Nevada hat, so I hope it's going in the right direction. I know sometimes Zoom it flips it, but very nice to be here with you two great ladies. I am Adam Chuckrow. I'm with Primerica Financial Services. I've been with the company for 10 years. I have a background in automotive repair, so I didn't come from I didn't go to college for this. What happened was I like fixing things and helping people, and I didn't want to work on cars forever. I ended up getting a friend brought me into the business. He actually started me off as a client. So everything that I do and I help my clients with is what I actually have in place for myself with Primerica. So I sell what I preach, or I own what I preach. Excuse me, I own what I preach, and I think that's a big thing. If you own a McDonald's and I see the owner going to Burger King, that's a red flag, right?
You might like that frame, but Adam. I don't know why I want to
Yes.
keep calling you Andrew, but Adam.
I've been called worse. Don't worry about it.
Before I want to touch on something you just said.
Mhm.
Because right now we're in what's called the Great Resignation, whereas a lot of people are dissatisfied with what it is that they're doing, and
Sure.
and they're out there, they're looking for the gig, that big position, that what have you, that second job. But what's so interesting is, of course, I don't know about you guys on my feed, it's always, I turned my gig in the pandemic into a six-figure income, or I turned my gig into a seven-figure income in 4 months, or I did this. And I'm like, and being an entrepreneur, I'm like, yeah, that's possible.
Well,
But
if you got $1 million income in 4 months, show me how you did it, and I'll do it. Right? I don't care what it is. If I got to shovel manure from one end of the street to the other in 4 months, I'll be a millionaire. Give me two shovels.
give you two shovels.
Right.
But that's also, as you know, is why I'll do it. That's not necessarily the, there's two parts to that. One,
Mhm.
whatever they're doing is not necessarily going to be for everybody.
True.
And number two, is that necessarily true that they've done it in 4 months? Have they been working on it before? Because they don't always tell you that.
Right.
So I want to say the fact that you were brought into the financial services space, but most people, like when you started in this business,
Mhm.
people knew you as Adam the mechanic.
Right.
What were the challenges and how did you overcome that? Because I think
Well,
people who are pivoting would be curious to hear that.
So yeah, absolutely. And I knew myself as the mechanic. So it's not, and I think that was a tougher thing, was not what people knew me as, but what I knew myself as. And
Mm,
when I got into financial services, it wasn't like I was searching for that. I was searching for better. And I looked at a lot of different things. I tried a lot of different things. I had a website, e-commerce business that someone else started. I came in and got an ownership stake in it. And it wasn't, I knew nothing about this. I mean, I didn't know about, I mean, we're talking 12, 14 years ago. I didn't know anything about a website. I had to learn stuff, and there wasn't so much YouTube to where you could watch a video. I was reading books on it and trying to figure this stuff out, and it was like reading Greek. But I was looking, I was trying. So I think some people are at the advantage where they have a passion already. They're doing something. Maybe they're making knit hats for cats, right? And that's their passion. And it's their passion. And they say, okay, I'm going to scale it up. There's a great podcast. It's called How I Built This. It's about these people, entrepreneurs that started their business, and this kind of the story on how they got there. And, Instagram, social media, you see all the millionaires or what perceives to be millionaires, and they might be. But I want to know, before I follow somebody that did that, or I totally buy into it, how long did it take you to get there? Right? Because there's a great thing about Usain Bolt, right? He's the fastest man in the world. He made all his money in 6 seconds, but no one talks about the 20 years it took him to get to that point where he could run for 6 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big key factor. But to go back to what your original point is, how do people perceive you? You know what? It shouldn't matter how people perceive you. If you're doing something that's legal, moral, and ethical, and it's something that you stand by, then it doesn't matter what people think about it. It's what is in your heart and what you got to go for. And another thing too, I've talked, and I'm sure you have too, because I mean, both of you probably done this. You're talking to someone, and you start asking about their dreams, talking about the future, and they're like, it's kind of stupid. I go, stop. It's not stupid. You've been told it's stupid by other people who don't see it. So tell me what it is. I want to hear it. And I think too many people have an idea and they get it shut down by people that don't have their vision.
But
So
they're
you got to be
listening to
careful with
Uncle
that.
Louis. They're listening to
Yeah,
Uncle Louis, who's not built anything, who's not done anything, but he's going to tell you
exactly.
that what you're doing ain't right. Yeah.
Right.
And it's
Right.
always interesting why, but then you have people that tell you, that's a great idea, but we always seem to want to listen to the Uncle Louis. I think that's
100%.
really awesome, and that's a great point. Everybody wants to talk about the glory, but
Mhm.
nobody wants to talk about the story
Right.
behind what built that glory, because it didn't
Right.
happen overnight.
Right. And I've been blessed to be around very successful people in different industries. I have a pal, he's here in Vegas. He owns it's probably like 75 restaurants in town in Las Vegas,
Wow.
over 1,000 employees, huge
Does he need help
organization.
with his health insurance?
Uh, he's got people locked in, and I've tried to get that business. Trust me, it's that until it unfortunately, there's stuff that's been happened, so it's probably going to be until the person that's handling it dies before they change people. Not that I'm wishing death on anybody, but I know I have another friend. He's a partner in a law firm, very successful law firm. I see him and his partners on billboarded up all across Las Vegas. I know a guy that took over his father's small little pharmacy and ended up selling it to Kroger for $13 million about 10 years ago.
Wow.
And there's a lot more. And what I found is the people that are like, if you're going to start something, the person that you want to go and ask, is this a good idea? is one of those people, someone who's done something significant, someone who's already achieved success, someone who's a business owner, because they're going to give you a different perspective than Uncle Louie. And you know what? I've never encountered a hater by someone more successful than me. Right?
Hey, that's a great point. That's a great point, because that true entrepreneur really sees everybody. That entrepreneur is providing a service, and
Mhm.
that service, that need. You know, most of you guys, Cassidy might not know because she's a little young, but that's okay. Facebook wasn't always around. Facebook
Right.
didn't show up until 2008.
How old do you think I am?
I know how old you are.
I know. I know you know how old I am. We just talked about this.
Exactly. But you know, for example, like the World Trade Center, most people says, oh, it's always there. No, it was built in 1976.
Right.
It wasn't always there, but it's what you knew at your time. So when you talk to people, like, you know, in about 25 years, you know, that when we talk about like Pearl Harbor and all that, people are like, I don't understand why, because they're moving forward, but they haven't talked to someone who's actually there
Right.
to hear that story, to hear, to understand what
Mhm.
was going on, to hear, to understand how business really works. It's not necessarily the influencers that you see on YouTube or TikTok or what
Sure.
have you, even though they're building a business. You got to talk to somebody in the field. So Adam, I'll
Yes.
say, sorry, go ahead, Cassidy.
So I was gonna say, because we talk to entrepreneurs pretty much every week, we try to. So what do you think, Adam, is really like the difference between an entrepreneurial mindset and the mindset of someone who's in a job, especially with Claudette was mentioning the Great Resignation, all of these people leaving their careers or being laid off and then trying to find something new or whatever their situation is. What would you say is most important for just switching your mindset when you're becoming an entrepreneur and trying to do that?
Well, you got to become very disciplined. I mean, I think that's the key thing, because when you have a job, you know, we'll just go with the 9 to 5, right? You show up, you clock in at 9 o'clock, you got a coffee break, you get the water cooler, you probably sneak off and check your Facebook feeds, and then you go to lunch, and then you come back, and then you work, and you get another coffee break, and then you go home, and at 5 o'clock, and then you're done. And being going into business for yourself, no matter what it is, it doesn't work that way. You got to be like, I get up at 4:30 in the morning. I don't love getting up at 4:30 in the morning, but I need to go to the gym. And so that's the best time for me to go to the gym, because then I go to prayer services every morning. I'm there at 6:15 till about 7:15, and then I got to go and crank it out and work. So then my biggest, that's discipline to do that, right? So you got to have the discipline. You got to be scheduled, which is part of being disciplined. You got to read. You got to read books. Like right now, hang on a second. I'm just going to grab this. I do not love reading, right? It's challenging for me. I don't know if you can see this. This is the thickest book I've ever read. It's 836 pages, I believe, plus another 30 pages of notes and stuff, you know, like sources. It's about face. It's a book about a captain in Korea in the Vietnam War, David Hathcock. Anyone wants to? Colonel. It's 836 pages. My goal is to have it done in October, which would be huge for me, right? It is challenging, especially because I get up at 4:30. So now at 9 o'clock at night, I'm trying to read 30 pages,
To the sleep.
35 pages. I'm falling asleep, right? So you got to like stand up. So, but that's all discipline. But the reason I'm reading this guy's a huge leader. And I look at, where can I get leadership from? Well, the military, I was in the military. I very much respect people that are in the military. They did something that I didn't do. I think maybe if I was a little bit younger, I would have, if I was at a different point in my life when 9/11 happened, very likely I would have ended up in the military. But I was at a different point in my life. But I want to, that's leadership there. So I want to learn leadership from every aspect that I can, because people will see something different. And I want to be able to relate to people of different backgrounds. You know, like I was just in New York in August, right? So glad that we could start talking about New York. I was in Manhattan, right? And so we can talk about that because I've experienced it, and for real, not just the I saw it on the YouTube or I saw it in the movies, right?
Right.
So you got to have discipline. You got to read. You got to be
Open.
You got to be open, and you got to look as failure as the process.
As the lesson. You got to look
Right.
at failure as a stepping stone. The setback is a comeback, as my very good friend Victor Felix says. You know, I love what you just said, Adam, because, you know, but I want to add a point to that, if you don't mind, is
Sure.
that also the entrepreneur, the person who's the true entrepreneur understands that it's the persistence and the consistency. It is not like, if I haven't achieved this in 3 months, I don't know where that came from. Or if I
Right.
haven't done this, because that's what Uncle Louis is telling you. If
Right.
you didn't do it in 3 months, you're a failure.
Sure.
That it is every day you're trying to be 10% better. Every day you're moving towards your goal. You know, and if you listen to every single person, whether if you've read Jeff Bezos' story, if you listen to you know, Bill Gates and them, they all started in the garage. They all had all
Right.
these challenges.
Sure.
It didn't happen overnight. And look at them today.
Yeah.
It didn't happen overnight. And there was lean periods. There was, all right, I need to get this done. But I also, you know, they figured it out to be able to make it work. And today, there's so many people telling you how to figure it out, whether it's Marie Folio with Everything is Figure Outable, whether whoever it is, there's so much information to help you get through those hurdles of growth.
Right. Right.
But you have to go through those hurdles of growth.
100%. And I saw something, I wish I had the actual statistics, but it said something like, you know, it's something like 80% of entrepreneurs fail at their first attempt. But then it's like a 90% success rate on their second attempt. The
That's
only problem is,
unsurprising.
the only problem is not enough people go for the second attempt. Right.
And not enough people understand, like a lot of people, like you said with Usain Bolt, they all want the glory, they don't want the story.
Right.
They see the end result and they don't look at all, and they don't see the failures, and they don't see the challenges. They just see the finish line.
100%. And to expand on that, I've been in a room with, again, I've been blessed to be around very successful people. Just in the Primerica world, I've been in a room when there's 3-4 $1 million plus earners annually, and they're huge net worth because they smart, they invest. You know, they tend not to do risky stuff. And when you hear these older men and women speaking about their story, that's what made it. Like, they're more about the story than the price, you know, and they loved their life, and they wouldn't trade it, but they would do it again if they had to.
Exactly.
Right. And you know what, I'll go back to the to the military stuff. If you talk to people that have been in combat, there's like a brotherhood with other combat veterans, because it's something that they've gone through. That's the story, they've gone through it, and it's something that unless you've experienced it, you can't appreciate it.
But you don't understand.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about what we're here to talk about is, but I thought, thank you so much for it, because I think that
You're
was a
welcome.
great part. That's a great
Absolutely.
opening segment. But let's talk about finance. And
Mhm.
so just a little, you know, just to be very transparent, though Adam and I are in the same space, we approach it from different protocols. And people like, so Claudette, you're interviewing your competition? And I'd say, I don't have competition. You know why?
There's enough business to go around.
But it's that. And I'm gonna set the stage like this. So I decided I was doing a triathlon and the sneakers I had didn't work. So I said I needed to do better. So I went to Modell's Foot Locker rather to get a new pair of sneakers that were gonna work and that were gonna make me run fast. Yeah, that one gonna make me run fast, but I was getting sneakers to make me run fast, or at least let me have not have knee pain. And I remember walking in to the guy and I said, and I walked up there with a mindset of I'm only gonna spend this amount of money. I'm gonna buy these sneakers. I am not buying Asics because I don't like Asics. And that's it. It was very clear on what I wanted. And I walked into the store and I said, I need some sneakers. And he pointed at a wall that had 300 pair of sneakers. And I said, I need sneakers to go running. He pointed at the wall and there were 300 sneakers. And I said, can you help me find a pair of sneakers? And he started asking me all these questions.
Mhm.
What do you think I walked out the store with?
A6.
I sure did. I walked out of the store. And I spent more money. And asked me what made me spend more money than I planned on it. Just ask me the question.
What made you spend more money?
The color of the sneakers.
All right.
That was, and it sounds funny for a girl that says that makes sense. I could have gotten the exact same sneaker and look like this. And I kept saying, I can't buy those sneakers. Can I have the blue and green ones? And they were more money. That meant something to me. That color was a value. Every time I think back on that story, I realize I walked in there with a mindset, but because of what I learned from this guy, because he was asking me, are you pronated, prenatal? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Are you a front runner, a heel striker? I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he took me through all this stuff and I got what suited me. In the world of finance,
Mhm.
it's like sneakers. There's tons of different ways of doing the same thing, but you got to work with somebody that's going to help you work through it and understand that I got that service from Foot Locker, but I might not have gotten the same answers from, say, Models or Nike or, pick one.
Right.
So you kind of have, but if you understand what you're looking for, you get to go there. So,
Right.
Adam, tell us about the model of Prime America. Talk about that because Prime America has been around a while and there's people here who've never heard of it or they don't understand it. So let's see if we can get some clarity.
Sure. Well, we've been around for 44 years. We are in all 50 states. We're huge. We're a publicly traded company. We're on the New York Stock Exchange under PRI. So I always say, hey, you haven't heard of us and you want to do your research because, Models, right? I'm guessing that's an East Coast Nike's or a Foot Locker version or whatever, athletic store. I've never heard of it, right? Until you said it,
Wow.
I
but
haven't either.
That's funny.
right. So I'd have to go Google them, right? And here's the thing, right? When if I'm going to research something, and I'm sure the two of you are here on the research side too, right? If you're going to I want to look at facts. I don't want to look at opinions. Right now, if my best friend and we like the same type of food, the same style of food, the same restaurants, and he gives me a recommendation on a restaurant, yeah, I'll take his opinion on that because I already know we're aligned with each other. But I don't look at we all use Yelp probably to restaurants, right?
I hate Yelp.
Okay, here's what I like Yelp for one purpose, because I like to see what's near me. But I don't look at Yelp unless I see reviews on Yelp like this place had cockroaches and rats. I'm not taking too much of anyone's words credit. In fact, funny thing is, I moved, so I don't really go there anymore. The favorite sushi place that I was going to, if I went based on Yelp's reviews, the first review I saw was an awful review at an all-you-can-eat sushi place. And I just happened to read it because I recognize the name, gives you a first name and then a last initial. I'm like, I know this person. The name, it was, we'll change the name. It was Michelle C., right? That's not her real name. But Michelle C wrote just like this person would write. And they went to an all-you-can-eat restaurant on a Friday night with like 10 people, and they complained about the service. I'm like, really? That's just like that's like going to Walmart on Christmas Eve complaining about the long lines.
Yeah.
What'd you expect, right? It was going to be busy. And I'm glad I didn't do it, go off her recommendation, because it turned out to be my favorite place. So what you got to look at, I think, when and the reason I'm bringing this up, it's kind of a long way around, but look, we got a track record, which is important. WFG's got a track record, right? So I want to look at the track record. I want to look at, I don't care so much about opinions. I want to look at the facts, right? Now, when I don't know, I've had some experience as the client with 2 different financial advisors in my past. And you know what they never did? They never taught me, and they never broke down how to get what I wanted. And they vaguely asked me what I wanted. They didn't really find it. So when I sit down with a client or a potential client, my job is to find out what's important for them in their future. My goal is to get them financially independent. Now, what does financial independence mean? Well, that's different for everybody.
Exactly.
Right? So I got to find that out. And then once I find out a destination, I can build the roadmap, the GPS coordinates to get them to where they want to be. Now, the model that we've had for 44 years is to buy term, which means buy term life insurance and invest the difference, which means traditionally, and if you go back 40, 50 years, even 30 years, almost all life insurance was what we call a cash value, which is whole life, was the most common seen, especially for the middle class. And my focus is middle class. I'll help the millionaire, but I really look for the middle class person that they're working, they got the family, they don't have time or the knowledge to do all this stuff. And so what we did is we separated the insurance into 2 separate products, and that gives them more freedom and I believe a better product for the consumer. Now, funny thing is, which a lot of people don't know, all types of every life insurance, and there's multiple different types, different names. It's all term insurance. It's just that it has either straight term or it's term with extra on it, like a whole life. It's got the savings, or an IUL or a VUL. It's a term policy with something else extra on it with the savings. So another thing too, I think knowledge is very important, because when I don't want to just help a client and earn their business, I want to educate them, because that was one thing that I never got from the financial advisors that I had. They never educated me. In fact, one of them outright did things that were, if he was a fiduciary, would have been a violation of his fiduciary responsibility, but he wasn't. So he was able to put myself and my mother into products that were not what was best for us, but earned him a higher commission.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that was legal.
You know what? There's always been a fiduciary responsibility. It's just that there's been an assumption of a fiduciary responsibility for those in finance. Then they realize, because let's just be real, it's the level of greed. When you're dealing with money, it's greed. It just trips and point where they're like, well, this is going to benefit them, and ignore how much it's really going to benefit. It's going to benefit my client, but ignores how much it's really benefiting them. So they've always had the desire. But before we go on, I have a question for you. I just want to clarify for our guests who may be not familiar. So actually, the oldest life insurance type of policy out there was term. And it basically was exactly that. It went for a period of time. And the goal was to cover you in the event that someone died, and so they were covered for it. Fast forward decades, and as everything in life goes, they tweak, they improve, they modify, like us humans, because we're only version 2021, where there's nothing new about us. The way we are is the way we've always been, minus a few things. So term is what you would call temporary insurance, because there's a beginning and then there's an end. Then you have what's called permanent insurance, and there's a whole lot of iterations, and that's for another time. But it starts, and the end date is either when you cease to fund the policy and it lapses, or which again, don't worry about that. That's just out there.
That's how
But
all
it
insurance
really,
policies
that's
work.
the whole how it
It
works.
doesn't matter what it is.
Or it ends on the day you pass.
Right.
That's when it ends. It's going to be there when you need it. Now, so for those of you are saying, so which one is better? Well, it depends, which is what Adam just said. It
Mhm.
depends on your goals. So let's delve into, because you see, I'm getting in my chair now, getting ready for you, right? So let's talk about this.
Sure.
I just want to say something real quick.
Sure.
Hold on.
Hi guys.
Yes, we're in the same
We're actually in the
place.
same
We're
room
in the same room. I flew all the way to Vegas.
just for my podcast.
Just
with
for our
her.
podcast today. I said I'm going to be in Vegas today for this, and next week too. So, hi everybody, because I'm usually in New York when we're doing this. So, in time, City is awesome. So, and this is, and I'm asking these questions, and it's
Mhm.
funny because I saw this on my feed the other day, and someone was analyzing the concept of buy term, invest the rest.
Mhm.
And one of the biggest points they had, and I'm going to start with this, is that term is exactly that. It's term. It ends. The maximum is 30 years. And I know a few, like I know at one point I saw 40 years, but that's a very rare case that
So
there's a
Primerica actually
40-year
does a
term.
35-year term. And I
Okay.
believe, and we're, as far as I know, we're the longest and the only ones that do that.
I think there's, and again, a lot of stuff has changed in the past 2 years, but there was one company I knew that did a 40-year term, but it was the end of 40 years. But in general, so Primerica does a 35-year. In general, it starts, the thing is, at the end of the 35th year, so I'm gonna ask some questions for our listening audience. I don't want to get deep dive into product. If you want to know more about product, contact Adam directly. If you want to know about, talk to him directly. The thing is, at the end of that term, right? So the concept is buy term, invest the rest. At the end of that term, if that person has not passed away, what happens? Are they able to get another 35-year? What's the goal? Like, that's where I think I've always kind of gotten caught up.
So
So
I can answer you on the Primerica side. I can't answer you from any other company.
that's okay. When we're talking about from the Primerica side.
Well, and I know some stuff about other companies, but here's what happened. So I got at 28 years old, I have purchased a 35-year level term policy through Primerica, which means from 28 to 63, I'm covered. It's locked in. It never changes. Okay. And so what does that mean? It never changes. It means if I were to get cancer, if I got sick, if I got a buffet fetish and I started gaining 100 pounds, they can't cancel it on me. They can't raise the premium. It's locked in. It's there. It's to my
But that's
benefit.
all. But that's
right?
all policies.
Well,
that's
actually,
all.
it's not.
Okay.
Because I've actually one of the policies I replaced for a buddy, he had it was a term policy, and every year he had a retest, do underwriting again for it.
That's unusual.
Yeah, and he was an athlete. It was like, I think it was more focused on people that would get what we call preferred plus, which or a select premium. What it is it's a, for the people that don't know the insurance world, it means you're super duper healthy. You're probably not going to die for a very long time, so there's less of a risk. So they're going to actually lower your premium.
So let's look at in general, though. In general, yeah. In general, when you get what you get in the beginning, it stays the same. You don't have to retest.
Right.
That's the general. What your friend is talking about, that's unusual.
Yeah, I've only seen one of those. I've only seen that one time.
That's very unusual.
Right. So great question. Now, what is life insurance for? That's what I would ask you. So Cassidy, well, I'll ask you since you're not you're a health insurance, not a life insurance person. What's the purpose of having life insurance?
I'm not going to answer this how you want me to.
No.
Okay, well, I think the purpose of life insurance is to protect yourself and the family should something catastrophic happen.
Right.
So I would consider that like if I would consider like cancer, heart attack, stroke, something like that catastrophic. And I would hope that life insurance would either pay out something for you. Like I don't like the idea of it just being, well, if you die, it's left over for your family. I like the idea of it being able to be used by you as well. So I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know.
Well,
What's the point of life
life
insurance, Adam?
insurance. You're almost there. You were so close. And I'm not saying you're wrong. Life insurance and the origin of life insurance was so to replace your income or your value to your loved ones when you die, right? Because this might be a shocker to a few people. We're not getting out of here alive. At some point, we're all going to expire and be buried and have a nice funeral, hopefully. So, what it is this: it's to replace your income, right? So, if you got, I'll tell you, the average family I sit down with, they're mid 20s to mid 40s, a couple, they got some kids, and there's different. I got single fathers, I got single moms, I got 20-year-olds that see the value of life insurance. They got no responsibility to anyone. They still live at home with mom and dad, but they see the value of it and they want it, right? So, but it's there to replace the value that you bring financially to your loved ones or the people that are supporters of you or you support or will be future, right?
Or who
Because the
depends on you.
20-year-old, what's that?
Well, who depends on you? Because it could be
Exactly.
if you're the primary caregiver and there's somebody else is the primary breadwinner. The primary caregiver is lost. There's an impact. There's a loss of value. If
Well,
the
I'll
primary
tell you
breadwinner,
this. What
Mhm.
about the since we got some strong ladies here, what about the stay-at-home mom that doesn't earn an income?
Primary caregiver.
That right there, she needs life insurance
Exactly.
because if first off, there's a cost to death, and who's replacing her? How much is it going to cost to take for
Exactly.
the car, for the chauffeur? How much is it going to cost for the housekeeper? How much is it going to cost for the cook? How much is it cost for the therapist?
Or the
Right?
net or the babysitter. Yeah.
Exactly.
She's the
That's a
primary
value.
caregiver.
Right.
Exactly.
So life insurance. So okay. So going back, well, what happens at the end of that term period? Does it?
Mhm.
Well, with Primerica, you got some different things. First off, I would say this: if you have car insurance, right? Or sorry, if you have a car, you have car insurance. Now we know most people have car insurance because it's the law, but there are a few of us that have car insurance because we want to be protected in case we mess up and crash. We don't want to get sued, right? So if Cassidy, if you have a car and then you say, you know what, I'm moving to New York City where having a car is a bigger pain in the tuchus than it is to take the bus and the subway. I'm going to sell my car and I'm just going to take public transportation. Are you still going to keep your car insurance? You don't have a car anymore.
Yeah, I know. That's why it feels like a trick question.
It's not a trick question.
That's your question. I already know where you're going with this, but go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm ready for you. I think I am, but go ahead. Keep going.
I know.
You're not, right? You're done. So life insurance is really designed for the time that you need it. And at some point you shouldn't need it. The reason why you wouldn't need it is you would become self-insured. Well, what's self-insured? Well, you've been saving a lot of money, investing it properly, and now you got a nest egg where no matter what happens, your family's taken care of because you have all that money. And I always say this too: life insurance is for dying, money's for
Wait,
living.
pause.
Yes.
Self-insured.
Yeah.
That is a very technical term in health insurance. So, are you using it in a technical way? Or are you just saying that, like, Well, if they've got a bunch of money, they'll probably be fine.
So if you have, let's say you're married, right, Cassidy, or you got a significant other.
No.
I thought you had okay, maybe I was thinking of someone, but let's say you're married and you got a couple kids, right? And you got obviously there's an extreme need at that point for life insurance and to have income protection, right? But let's say you go and because your business is really good and you say, I'm going to go sell that business or whatever anyway. And now you're sitting on $5 million and you're not going to go spend it and go buy Ferrari and a Lambo and all that stuff. But you're going to say, okay, I got $5 million. I'm going to make this money last the rest of my life. I'm going to invest it well. I'm going to live off the earned interest and not go through the principal. You're self-insured because if you lose your income, if you don't have the ability to, you were to pass away, that $5 million is still there. Your family's still taken care of. That's self-insured.
But you're not though. It's just you have a big stack of money that's sitting there just in case.
You're looking at it.
Health insurance.
You're looking at the health insurance.
I'm looking at it like, oh, so are you insured? Do you have insurance? And the answer is no.
You're not. You don't have. It's a term we use. I'll change the term. How about this? You're financially independent.
I'm going to jump in.
Okay.
And I'm not jumping in from someone because I do understand the argument that you guys are making. And this is not, and for everybody listening, this is not like he's wrong, whatever. It's like, it's the kind of discussion that I would hope you as a person is going to have. Like when you're making that decision of what works for you, you're really delving into it. Because the concept of I have a lot of money, there's a whole lot of variables. There's a whole lot of so let's take a look at this.
Sure.
I've sold my business and it was 1996 and I put my money in the bank or I invested my money and it's 1996 and I just lost 50% because the market crashed. All right, I recouped it back. Then in 2002, the market crashed. And then I recouped it back because over the time you will recoup the money back. And then it's 2008, the market crashed. If you look between 1996 and 2008, you basically never increased your income because it was kept washing because of the crashes. We had the longest bull run from 2008 to 2020, and then it crashed. We know because of pandemic. But what we do know about money that's based as an asset is that it's subject to market volatility. And what am I talking about, people? I'm talking about if the money that you have invested is subject to ups and downs. You see that all the time. I'm so sorry. You see that all the time. All right. But besides that, it's also subject to something else, taxation. So even if you have $5 million, the question of that it'll be there forever is not necessarily the case, depending on what you're doing. So and this is kind of the argument I had prior to getting into this field. Buy term and invest the rest is a principle that has value if properly strategized. But I want for what we try to do here, CKC, is bring that deep dive and ask those questions that other people may not be able to ask. Bring up those kind of things that other people may not be able to ask. And that is, okay, I've done that. I bought term and now I'm investing it and the market crashed. Okay, I've recouped, the market crashed. I recouped again, the market crashed. I recouped again. Now I'm ready now my term has expired. I've got really good, everything's going well. Market crashes. There's a couple serious illnesses, long-term care. And that I thought was going to last, maybe not so much.
Well, I hear what you're saying. Now, I'm like I prefaced in the beginning, I like facts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you said, I think 2008.
2008 was a crash, yeah?
2008 was the housing.
Yep.
So in 2008, or actually we'll go to 2007 because it was higher. The Dow Jones Industrial Average
Mm-hmm.
was at 13,000 and change, depending on exactly what the day was.
Mm-hmm.
2000, it went down to 7,000 in 2009, which is the lowest it had been.
Mm-hmm.
Then we said 13,000. Remember that at 2008?
That's what you said, yeah.
2013, 2012, we're over 13,000 again. 2015, we're at 18,000.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're at 21,000, 25,000. We peaked at about 28,000. And then it dropped back down to like 24,000, which was 24,000 was that March of last year when COVID happened, and it very
Mm-hmm.
quickly regained, and now we're at 34,000.
Right.
So what would have been the best thing? Well, if I could have taken all my money and put it in the market in 2009 when I was at the lowest, and then rode it all the way up, sold everything in February, or without realizing the gains, and put it into a money market, sitting on it for a month, let the market go, and then buy everything again, that would have been the best. But we're not talking about trying to time the market, because that's a silly thing.
That's
But
a
if you
silly
put
thing.
all your money in, if you had $1 million in 2008 invested in the market, we're going with the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right? And we could do the same thing with the S&P 500. Your $1 million net would be, I don't even know the exact number, but it'd be huge. It'd be significantly more than $1 million. And you would have
Give me a
gone through
range for
what's
like
well.
a
So
vague
we're
guess.
saying that it would have been. I'm trying to do it with the.
But just for the interest of time, but they're
Yeah.
absolutely over time, as I said, you will recoup. That goes without saying. But you, the thing is that there is volatility, and it also depends. There's another thing is, so in 2008 when the market crashed,
Mhm.
just for my things, I had just started investing in like the 401k, right? 'Cause back then that's
Sure.
what I was doing. And everybody, and I remember the chatter. The world's coming to an end. We'll never recoup. Chicken Little had come and Chicken Little. And I just remember going, what's wrong with you people? The
Right.
market always crashes. It always comes back. Get over it. It'll be fine.
Right.
And I was right. But you know something? There were people who were retiring in 2008 when the market crashed and they lost 50%. Were they able at that time of their life to be able to wait it out for them to recoup what they had lost? It's not that the market won't recoup, because it
Right.
will. The question is as you know, it's timing. Where are you? Because in 2008, I didn't care.
Right.
I wasn't planning on touching that money. But if I was at retirement, that would have disturbed me greatly,
Right.
because I just
Well,
lost half of what I earned. I had set
and you're
aside.
100% right on that. And the thing is, if what we're talking, what most people, most workers, middle class workers in the United States, most of their retirement is tied up into 401ks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got a 401k, anyone that's listening or who's ever owned a 401k, had a 401k, 401ks are a work sponsored plan. And the problem with 401ks is you don't have any customer service, right?
Oh.
And the thing is, and I'm sorry, I'm just getting my power in. So the thing is with the 401ks, right? Let's say you work for XYZ company, they have a 401k, and now you're setting it up, okay? You're getting basically a login to log in and then set up and allocate everything how you think is the best way to do it.
Yep.
And then if you have a question, you call the 800 number, and the person you speak to, they're not a financial expert. They're not even licensed in financial invest securities. They are a very well-spoken customer service rep that probably makes about $18 an hour, maybe 25, but probably like 18. And that's who you're talking to. So what happened in 2008, because I've had this conversation a bunch. First, as a 25-year-old funding their 401k, their allocation should be very different than a 45-year-old, a 55-year-old, and a 65-year-old. And the
Absolutely.
problem is a lot of these allocations are not being funded properly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a major problem. So you'll have people, I've seen it where I had a guy, 10 years with a company, his whole time he was funding his 401k, it was going into a money market account at 1%. So he had 10 years of basically putting his money in the bank, right?
Yeah.
But then I've seen other people on the other end, they're right at retirement, and they're totally risky investments where any hiccup they could see a big value change. But there's another thing. So here's what happened in 2008, because a lot of the loss, so there's two things happening. You have loss of value and loss of money, right? And those are two very different things. So what's loss of value, right? Or gain in value. So let's say I buy a house, and I buy that house for $200,000, and it goes up to $300,000. Did I make $100,000? Nope. It's a value gain, but unless I sell that house at 300,000, I haven't made any money.
Right.
Well, what if
Excellent
that house, I buy it at 200,000 and it drops down to 100,000? Did I lose $100,000? No, I lost $100,000 in value, but unless I sell that house, I haven't lost anything. Right. So what happened in 2008 was you had a lot of people that saw a decrease in their, almost every single person in the world that was invested in U.S. Equities, U.S. companies, saw a drop in their value of their retirement account, their investment account, their 401k. Okay. And then what happened is a lot of people lost their jobs. There's a lot of layoffs at then. And what they did is, some of them did it by necessity. They had to use that money to live on. Some of them did it because they didn't have a professional there to help them and roll that money into an IRA, where they would have been able to move that money, and it would just change. It basically just changes the type of account. They never actually touch that money. There's no taxes. There's no penalties. But there's people that would happen is they cashed out. Now, some of them cashed out, not needing the money, but they just cashed out. And then they got $100,000 sitting there. And then what do they do when they got 100,000? It burns a hole in their pocket, right? And they spend that money.
And they
so
also
what
got
happened
taxed.
was this, though.
They also get taxed.
They also get taxed. So let's say you got $100,000 in your 401k, and you decide for whatever reason to cash it out, and you have not achieved the age of 59 and a half. You're going to have two things happen. One, 401ks, IRAs are all retirement accounts, and they're designed to keep you in that money in there until you're 59 and a half. If you take it out before being 59 and a half, you get a 10% penalty on it that is done by the IRS, not anybody else but the IRS. So let's say you got $100,000, you cash it out, and you're 40 years old. 10,000 of that right there goes away. It's penalty, that 10% penalty. But then you have, if it's a 401k or a traditional IRA, that money's never been taxed yet. So now you owe taxes on that money. Well, if you just cashed out $100,000, you're probably just bumped up into a higher tax bracket, right? Because if you were making 50,000 and you got 100,000, now you're in that top tax bracket, or almost to the top. So you're probably paying about 28% taxes on that, right? So if you got $100,000, you just got taxed at a 28% tax rate plus a 10% penalty. That's a 38%, which means that $100,000 is now $62,000.
Yep.
So it didn't lose value. You just got taxed to the moon with that. Now, if that 100,000 was $200,000 and the market dropped and it went down to 100,000, and then you said, I got to cash out while I still got something left. Now you lost the $100,000 in value, which is now a loss of 100,000 because you cashed it out with at 100,000 less, and then you got hit. So now you would have just essentially from your $200,000 lost $138,000. So 138,000 turned into 200,000 turned into 62,000. That's a bad day.
It is. And you just made a very, very good point, because you just showcased to our listeners that people were operating, they were listening to Uncle Louie, they were listening to the internet, they were listening to everybody else, but they weren't listening to people that could give them the kind of sound advice, or they were talking to the person who they thought, like the person at your 401k,
Right.
what you should do. And because that person had a vested interest in something else, they weren't getting like, okay, let's really take you through the steps of what's going to happen right now so that you come out in the best position
Right.
possible. And you just showcased, because by giving that kind of information for those who are saying, you know what, I hadn't thought about that, the difference between value, because there's value on paper, just as you illustrated, but then there could be a loss of value if you act under panic and then start cashing out,
Emotional.
or which people did, or and it's because you're not working with somebody who says, hold your, like I say, let's breathe in and breathe out. Let's now work through this thing. But I want to come back again, because I think there's so much information. You're giving so much value to our listeners today, and I really I want to appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
So when you guys, so let's forget the part about the term. That
Sure.
part's fine. Let's get to the part about, so when the investor, so a person now says, okay, I'm going to invest the rest. Now, is it you that invests for them, or do you give them a plan and let them do it themselves?
Great question. So what Primerica has done is, Primerica is on the insurance side, we are the underwriter. So we actually underwrite our own policies. On the investment side, we're a brokerage. Now, what does that mean? So if you've heard of, our listeners have probably heard of Smith Barney, Merrill Lynch, JP Morgan, right? Those are brokers, right? So a broker is like it's like the grocery store, right? You go to the grocery store, you go to Foot Locker. We'll go to your Foot Locker reference better, right? So you go to Foot Locker. Foot Locker doesn't make the shoes. They just sell the shoes, right? So Foot Locker is the broker in the situation, right? And because I work with the broker, I'm a registered representative with the broker. I am the sales associate that has the different shoes, or in this case, different investments. So what we do though is we work with the top companies, Legg Mason, Invesco, Pioneer, Lincoln Financial, American Funds. There's way more than I can even bother to list right now. But these are all huge investment mutual fund companies and these are just some of the types of investments we do. But these are huge mutual fund companies that we and those companies have agreements on. These are the who we're going to bring to the market, to our clients, right, to our families. And then what we do is we work with the internal people with those companies. So like Legg Mason, there's there's someone that's assigned, it's not someone, it's a team of people assigned exclusively. They only handle Primerica agents and clients. And then we have our own internal people. And what they do is they put together a group of, let's say, mutual funds that are designed to achieve the goals of certain of each individual that we're working with. So we have the 20-year-old that's getting started, is like super aggressive, and I want to do the biggest returns and gains, and I'll take all the risk that's out there. So that's one group that we've put together. And then, and that'll be it might be 4 mutual funds, it might be 6 mutual funds. It really depends on the individual. We want to cater to the individual. So it's always what's best for that person or that family. Then you have the retiree that isn't looking for gains. They want to be in a position where they're going to preserve capital. They want to beat inflation. They want to do better than the bank. If possible, they want to be in a place where it gives them tax-free growth. And then there's everything in the middle. So we work with that. So when someone opens up an investment account and they start putting money into that monthly or a lump sum, whatever it is, they're not only just working with me and we're guiding them, but we have the oversight of the top people in Primerica, the executives. We have the investment companies that have their group of people, and they're putting, so there's so much there to make sure that these are the right things. So it's not like I'm not going there and picking out, okay, we're going to do a Foot Locker, we're going to get Coca-Cola, MGM. No, it's not like that. Now there's other organizations, other firms that do that, but that's a very specific type of clientele that caters to that. The average person is not going to invest that way. Now there's people, and I'm sure you've dealt with this, where they like my I'll give you an example. My grandmother loves Hilton Hotel, and it's been around forever. I think she's 94. I think I'm not sure who's older, Hilton Hotels or my grandmother, but they're neck and neck, right? And
That's
so
terrible.
no,
I bet
she's
she
94.
looks like she's 29.
Well, with the plastic surgery, but she's 94. She still has a driver's license, and she's a better driver than a lot of people. And she's a fantastic designated driver. When I go to visit her, she takes me to the bars, and she'll have like one drink, and then I drink the rest. But she drives around. But anyways, so she loves Hilton. So she's invested and bought Hilton stock. But that's like very small of her, everything that she has. Right. And trust me, at 94, most of her stuff is about as boring as you could be, but it's because she needs to maintain it. She can't afford a loss. Right.
Right.
So that's the thing, right? That's what you're getting. And another big thing, I just earned the business of a young lady. She's a pharmaceutical sales rep, right? And I had chatted with her. She wasn't interested in doing anything. I actually talked to her about, she was interviewing for a new job and came off very well. She was at a Starbucks and I was there.
Mhm.
So I talked to her because I actually was like, I want to hire this lady. I want her to work with me. She wasn't interested. Well, she left her job and then she got hired onto a new job. And this was about a year later. And I reached out to her. She said, I'm not interested in a new job. I'm like, great. Well, what about your 401k at your old job? Well, I ended up moving that 401k into a traditional IRA under my supervision. And here's the key thing that she asked.
Sorry.
So she asked me, well, why should I go with you versus like a Merrill Lynch? Or actually, she didn't even say that. She said, why should I go with you instead of just rolling it over to my next 401k company? I said, that's a great question. I go, when you call your 401k company and you got a question, who are you talking to? Well, she goes, well, no one. I'm talking. It takes forever to even get to a person. I go, right. You know who you're talking to when you call, you know what the 800 number is when you call us? You're calling my cell phone. You can text me. You can call me. You can email me. You can WhatsApp me. You can Instagram me, right? I don't have Snapchat, but you can give me all these other ways, and I'm going to get back to you, right? And that's the big difference too, is when you're working directly with an individual, and I'm not just saying me, but any individual, if it could be you, it could be someone with a little mom and pop firm. But when you're working with an individual and they have a relationship with you, now you're really going to be in a better position. So when all that crazy stuff in the world happens, you got someone that you can call up and say, hey, walk me through this. Save me from my own misery.
Yeah.
Right. And be able to adjust. One of my clients just became a police officer. I'm so excited. I got to give him a call and tell him I can't wait for him to pull me over. Right. So, but he's also, and I know that because his cousin is my buddy and he put it on Instagram, the graduation. Right. But he's got a baby on the way. Right. His wife's pregnant with their first baby. So what's going to happen is once the baby's here, we're going to sit down and we're going to review now that he's got a new job. He's got a new baby. We're going to re-examine his financial plan that we've already put in place. And if there's things that we need to adjust because his life has been adjusted, we're going to adjust things to his new life. And that's a very key factor, no matter who you're dealing with, what company is, are they there to be there for you when your life changes?
Oh, that I think that's, what you're saying makes perfect sense, especially for a company such like Prime America that has been focused on the middle class, similar to, what I do. But as I said, our protocols are slightly different.
Sure.
But the end result is that you're giving that type of education and support, and that this niche otherwise would not get. They have, if
100%.
you're wealthy, you have lots of people running behind
Right.
you to give you information and to coddle your money and to coddle you. But when you're not talking, somebody with goggles of money ready to say, here's my goggle,
Sure.
go play with it, but rather, here's my extra, what you're doing is a great service. So
Absolutely.
Adam, give us some words of wisdom that you want to leave our visitors with, our viewers with, about what it means to buy term and invest the rest.
Well, what it is, it's at the end of the day, I think the simplest thing is this: people don't plan to fail; they fail to plan. So, whatever system, whatever program is best for you, you got to have a plan and you got to put it in place. Because too many people, they don't do that, and they live for now. They act like tomorrow's never going to come, and you can get away with that for a little bit, but eventually what's going to happen is you're going to be 50, 60, 70 years old, and you're not going to have anything to retire on. You're not going to have, you're going to be way behind. And it, I had one lady I was helping out. She's about a 55 years old, never made a whole lot of money. And I got turned on her by another client. And she asked me, can I retire? And I got to tell you, it was heartbreaking to say, I don't think you ever will. But if you do something now, and she did, the difference is very likely will be working part-time instead of full-time in your 70s, or being able to make sure you can afford still the quality of life you're at now and not having to step down. Or maybe you can at least go on vacation once a year or every couple of years. So have a plan, put it in place, be disciplined with it, stick with it, talk to whoever helps you with that when things change, or if you have a question, or if you have a doubt, because chances are it's something that's very simple that you just need some more clarity on. And you just need that person, that professional there to help you out. And if they are a true professional, they're more concerned about your needs than theirs, because if they care about your needs, you're going to tell your friends, your family about them, and they're going to get more families to help, which means their needs are going to end up becoming achieved that way. So they shouldn't be looking at making the money. I mean, look, we're all here to make money, right? That shouldn't be their primary thing. It should be, I want to take care of the family I'm sitting down with to the best of my ability. And if I take care of them, I'll get taken care of.
Absolutely. Cassidy, any words of wisdom for our listeners?
Well, on this channel, we believe in science. I would just like to say that because it's come up before, so I've decided it's the thing that we say. Just Adam's great. If you have any questions about financial services, he's local here in Las Vegas. So all my Vegas people, I'm working with him. He's one of my people, one of my local Vegas people to help out all the local Vegas people. But yeah, I hope you all have a lovely night, and I hope you have just as much fun as we do doing this podcast.
Thanks, Cassidy. Adam, thank you so very much. I truly
Thank you.
appreciate it. I truly appreciate the wisdom that you gave to and the information you gave to our listeners. And also, it was fun, colleague to colleague, to kind of delve a little bit into it. It's like, you know what? It's like the two different doctors are like, okay, I wouldn't have fixed the heart that way. And you're like, well, I wouldn't fix the heart that way. And then they go back and forth. But you know what? When they walk
The heart
away
got
from each
fixed.
other, the heart still gets fixed
Right.
and they both learn something from each other. And
Absolutely.
that's the only thing that mattered.
Absolutely. And if I could just do a quick plug for myself, if anyone does have questions, my phone number is 702-595-3972. And I'm Adam Chuckrow. It's Chuck and Row together. If you want to find me on social media, and I'm happy to answer any questions. If you want to meet with me, if you want to give me some criticism, I'm always looking to improve myself. So and it was great to meet you and to be on this program with you guys.
And I'm going to give you a book to read. It's by John Maxwell. Have you ever,
Okay.
you're familiar?
I know John
It's
Maxwell. Yeah.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Sure.
That is a book that is,
Yeah.
all I got to say. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, by John Maxwell. And it starts with, so I have a mugshot. That was enough to get me to read the whole book. But from the page, from the time I turned that from that first sentence, it was bombs just being dropped. Mic drop all the way. So sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
I can't wait to hear about that story, how you got that mugshot.
Well, that's how John Maxwell got the mugshot. I ain't got a mugshot. Clinton ain't getting no mugshot.
You haven't got one yet.
Oh, that's Pollyanna.
Not gonna be a Clinton mugshot. Sorry, not this time.
Hey, remember, Martha Stewart's got a mugshot, and she's been more successful after that mugshot than before it.
Yeah, well, let's just say there's a little difference between me and Martha Stewart. I ain't getting a mugshot.
Okay.
Anyway, everybody, we want to thank you guys so much for joining us again tonight on Clutter and Cassidy Champions. We love serving our community, bringing you these kind of discussions that we had today. So next week, we're going to go deep dive into entrepreneurship with my friend, my mentor, my business coach, Mia Tor. Mia is an author. She, you know what? I'm going to let her tell you her story. But next week at we're broadcasting 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific, 5:30 Central. Okay, you know what? There's too many time zones for me to keep track. But go from 6:30 Eastern and work your way backwards. So I really hope you guys can join us next week for that. And at the end of the month, I'm just going to give you a little secret. There's going to be this person who y'all been seeing. She's going to be giving you all kinds of information on health. And so you don't also want to miss that one either. So everybody, you have a great rest of your night and see you soon.
You as well. All right,
Bye-bye.
great. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
You're still recording.
Okay.